See if there's anything else. Well, let's just get to today's program. This is good. This is going to be kind of interesting because I've had, and Jeannie, you'll enjoy this too. You probably get this question all the time. That's Jeannie I'm talking to. Bob, what the hell is a collections consortium? How many of you know what it is? That many, huh? Yeah. This is the kind of process that we go through. This is one that I dug up in just searching for potential programs for us and came across this one. And it really looked interesting to me, and we'll find out if it is. Our speaker today is Jeanne Long. She's the executive director of the Chicago Collections Consortium. She came to Chicago Collections after an extensive 31-year career at the Art Institute and the School of the Art Institute, the SAIC. While at the SAIC, she served as the Director of Community Partnerships, where she oversaw strategic programming that highlighted the work of the students at the school. So via Zoom, please welcome Jeanne Long.
Thanks so much. And I'd love to begin today by thanking Jill Becker for her hospitality and getting me settled in as your speaker today, but also to Bob for his generous invitation to come speak to. I was so pleased to listen to what a robust North Shore Senior Center that you have. And also you're the perfect audience that I love to get in front of, lifelong learners, people who are inquisitive about history. And in my talk today, what I'd like to do and what I plan to do is tell you, answer that question that Bob posed. What is a collections consortium? Why we even exist? How we got started? What we're currently doing and what we're looking to do in the future too. So let's begin. We were launched in 2012 and we are a membership organization. And by that, I mean, our membership consists of libraries, cultural organizations, organizations with archives that all work together for the preservation and promotion of Chicago history and culture. We celebrate our 10-year anniversary. So by many respects, we are young as an organization. And we were so pleased to celebrate our anniversary with then Mayor Lori Lightfoot declaring it Chicago Collections Day on March 3rd in 2022. But we started some new initiatives that I'll speak about because of our anniversary celebration. But we're still, in my opinion, a well-kept secret, and I work hard every day to share the news because all our resources are free and open access. There's no price tags attached to it, and it's really through the support of our member organizations and their dues, as well as some robust hardworking development efforts that we're able to continue with that. Our member organizations have a shared commitment, not only to our mission of really sharing freely, openly, and equitably. And by that, I mean making sure this information is reached everywhere. Again, no associated cost to the world. We're able in these virtual times to have users attend our programs internationally, as well as we can chart and track our international audience that tap into our Explore portal, which I'll speak of. But also the vision that we share as an organization is this understanding of looking at our history as a source of not only knowledge, but inspiration too, and engaging that through those primary sources of history and the importance of primary sources and archives. So our governing members consist of the larger major academic institutions in the city. And just to give you a snapshot of our history, a while back, there was a citywide initiative on mapping, and member leaders from different organizations at that time all got together to celebrate what did they have on this topic. And there was that discoverable aha moment. Who knew that Northwestern University had had this? Who knew that the Art Institute had that? It was only through the lens of one topic that we were able to share that information. So then president and librarian at the Newberry Library, David Spadafora, and then dean at University of Illinois, Chicago, and librarian Mary Case got together and said, wouldn't this be wonderful for our city if we formed an organization just solely on the topic of Chicago history and culture? So thus Chicago Collections Consortium was born. And it was really through the leadership and commitment by our larger member organizations. And of course, in their vein of existing of the educational component, they could see, I make the analogy to those working in library and archives and historians as really kind of the educational Red Cross. They're so eager and will do anything to get this information to those that need it in a quick and responsive way. And really, we look for Chicago Collections as that tool, and I'll show you as we go through, as a tool to really deliver information in a quick and efficient manner. Now, we've grown to over 60 member organizations. So the image you're looking at now is really kind of a kaleidoscope of different logos of our organizations. And there's really consortiums for every type of field, if it's a zoo consortium, a planetarium consortium. But the idea, what's so unique of Chicago Collections, is that all of these organizations are talking in community with each other. So colleagues across the city can work together, which is not often that they have that opportunity. And when I say they can work together, we're a small organization that are fueled by over 100 volunteers. Our members from these organizations sit on a listing of 12 standing committees and really share their brain power. So many times, people are saying, what's your recipe for success at Chicago Collections? And in many ways, how could we not be successful? Because we have access to all the great minds from everyone across the city. Additionally, we work with corporate partners. Corporations know that many that have been founded in Chicago are really leaders in making our city the rich history of what we are today, and continue to make those contributions. So Henry Crown Archives, who was responsible for just to name a few of the buildings from the Merchandise Mart to the Lyric Opera House, Ozinga, one of our most recent members of Family Corporation, the Chicago Cubs, the Union League Club of Chicago, capturing those civic leaders early on. Most recently, our board chair, Ellen Keith from Chicago History Museum, and myself spoke to the Union League Club. And it was an interesting conversation because, when the Eastland disaster hit, it was the Union League Club who was quick and at the ready of sending funds, to support the families of those that had lost loved ones at that time. So through the archives, you have that history come alive and find out what role these organizations played and continue to play in our city. But Chicago Collections, with its members, have a shared commitment to facilitating scholarship. And by that, I mean not only helping the researcher and the writer on a specific topic. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken to people and raise their hands and say, if I only knew about you when I started to write that book. So we help and we're that conduit for connecting those lines of information. Have you looked at this collection? Have you looked at that collection? Additionally, we're at the quick and ready to show programs, host programs, again, virtually to our audiences on specific topic, if it's a new book that's published, but again, solely on this topic of Chicago history and culture. And when I say that, we look at, the difficult times of our history, what has changed in that time. We look at the things to celebrate as well. So it's a full transparency of our city. Again, a shared commitment to collaboration and community. And by that, I mean, we reach out to other like-minded organizations in terms of how can we support and promote the work that's happening there. If it's the Chicago Architectural Biannual, what can we do to help spread the word about the offerings there? If it's Open House Chicago, Friends of the Chicago River, just really aligning ourselves. There's a lot of great things that are happening in our city, and we're stronger together by supporting each other. One of the example that I host on the screen here is shown of a partnership that Chicago Collections has with DePaul University. Now, I'm talking to you from my office at DePaul University here in Lincoln Park. Again, they being one of our governing members, and they're being able to offer me not only my office setting, but access to the DePaul community, which is amazing. But we reached out to My Block, My Hood, My City, because DePaul in their special archives has a collection of the Young Lords archives. And the Young Lords back in the day fought with DePaul University in terms of the encroachment of their community, the pushing out the Latino community within this community, the protests that occurred in Lincoln Park. So we offer tours to My Block, My Hood, My City has groups called the Explorers Group that come to DePaul. They not only come to a university setting, many of these kids have grown up in Chicago and had never ventured in Lincoln Park before, giving that opportunity to see another look of a part of our city, as well as visiting a university setting for the first time, taking them into a special collection to look at archives. How did these archives land at DePaul? What was the relationship at the time? And then additionally, meeting librarians who took a career path to archives and special collections, and even sharing the idea that if you're interested in history, that first person stories that can be shared, that could be a career path as well. So it's a win-win in terms of our outreach, engaging that community, and really trying to promote and elevate the roles of librarians and archivists as a career choice too. But our programming and outreach, and actually it was Ron today who talked about the recordings, but we at Chicago Collections also record and share all our programs on YouTube, not only for the opportunity that, oh, I can't make that 6 p.m. Program, but also to be able to go back. Many of our programs are so very interesting. You're like, what? I want to go back and really dive in a little bit. So that luxury of being able to have that posted and available to users all over, and to, as a executive director, to be able to see that viewership rise up. And we continue to promote, because that information is so very important. When the pandemic hit, I had said to our board, Chicago Collections was built for a pandemic because of that virtual component of having everything online and readily accessible as well. So most recently, we hosted 2 programs. One was a discussion with Chicago Covenants, diving in on really the backlog of covenants and land covenants, and even though it's against the law, but the listing of it, we know that the archives need to be amended. And the Chicago Covenants is a project group that goes through painstakingly and addresses those and updates those archives. We also partner with our member organizations like the Newberry Library. There's a great talk called Creating and Preserving Disorder, Roy Code Daily, and the 1968 Democratic National Convention that can be hosted, shown on our YouTube channel. And then we partnered again on tomorrow with and it's a virtual program with the Newberry Library on mapping Indigenous Chicago. And we're excited. Every year we've been partnering with the Black Metropolis Research Consortium. And that's another group that I think would be a wonderful candidate to hear about the work that they're doing. A similar model of Chicago Collections, but solely focused on the stories of the Black community. But on November 13th, we're bringing in new leaders across the city at different organizations for conversation and being able to share their leadership models and what they envision for their organizations. But digital exhibits, we have found to be that tool to really bring our member collections together in a unique way on a specific topic. I'm just showing here on the screen a few of our digital exhibits. Place of Protest is really kind of the history of Chicago's protests. 1963, Chicago Public Schools boycott and race riots in Chicago in 1919. Currently, we're working on 2 upcoming digital exhibits, one on Chicago in 1968, and another digital exhibit that will be launched in December on Chicago's art fairs and festivals, and really the role that they play in our community. This is a look back at our most recent digital exhibit called A Glimpse Back at Chicago's Communities and Neighborhoods. This was launched when our anniversary celebration, but I really invite you to take time when you go to our website in the upper right-hand corner. You'll see the Explore Collections digital exhibits, and you'll dive into it, and you can hear everything from what was happening at Mr. Kelly's at the time to really kind of we asked our members on this general topic of their community and neighborhoods what they could highlight. So it's a fascinating glimpse at what we call our city. One of the things, again, that we thought of a way that archives could be a source of inspiration and really kind of working with our member organizations like Chicago Public Library, but the Poetry Foundation as well, was to create a poetry competition called Making History Come Alive Through Words. And we asked Chicagoland high school students to go to our Explore portal and dive in and be inspired by an image. And it's amazing to see what these students have come up with. And most recently, Estelle Wong, a young high school student, wrote an ode to the L. Now, of course, we all know oftentimes the L does not get good press, but it is an iconic portion of Chicago. And Estelle created just a wonderful response to what the L means to her. The CTA saw her poem. They've been working with her on creating kind of a social media campaign. So these are the type of partnerships that we love to work with. And the CTA being a member organization as well, we love to highlight and share their archives. Also, another service that would be of interest to this community is called Ask at Chicago Collections. Now, Ask at Chicago Collections is really your virtual reference desk for any question you have on Chicago history and culture. And it's staffed by volunteer reference librarians across the city. So it's another discoverable moment where someone will write in. We have people from all over the world, frankly, that will write in and say, my parents used to live on Fullerton Avenue. I'm looking for a photo of their house. Who do I go to? Where do I go to? How can you help me? And freely, the reference librarians get to work and respond back, with an answer and a lead on what would be that path for them to take. So that's yet another service Chicago Collections offers. But before Explore, people would have to go to each and every website. with this idea of, because many people are like, well, can't I just Google that information? Well, you can, but you'll have to Google it at how many sites. So as I was mentioning earlier, the brainchild of this group of organizations and leaders across our academic universities and cultural centers all got together and said, how could we kind of harness this information and do that through a ready access? So our Explore Chicago Collections portal was born. Now, the portal allows users to go in and that search bar at the very top, type in a topic, but you can also, as you can see on the page, you can also explore by events, monuments, buildings, disasters. And as a gray, rainy day like today, and come cold, snowy days like February, perhaps, it's great to dive into explore and really just see the difference just through the images, how fast and quickly our city has changed. Additionally, you can explore by people and organizations, as well as, the families of Chicago and their rich heritage, searching metadata records. And you'll see on the left-hand side shown here, all the different listings. So university, if you looked up convention, the University of Illinois at Chicago has 1,008 records on that word convention. So, and then it lists other organizations and kind of the sheer volume of what they have. So it's that neat and tidy one-stop shopping. But again, I come back to the images and that source of inspiration and really just that aha moment of just how truly beautiful our city is and as it constantly changes. And from any topic, from government to beyond, you'll have access to the listings, and it will share that number next to a topic. If it's the World Fair, what's available, certain things like that. But, for example, looking at this, if you were looking at Chicago protests and demonstrations, what's available, what can someone find on a specific topic that way, as well as the Democratic National Convention, if people are looking, if a writer's looking for an image, a specific image, and where material might be housed. You'll be surprised at the unique spots that hold material on specific topics. And looking at union strikes as well. And again, a picture shown here of garment workers of marching along Chicago, and this comes to us from Chicago History Museum. And also diving in on, Chicago atomic scientists and what's found at the University of Chicago and those records. So just topically, some of the things that can be explored. We're working with Chicago Metro History Fair Day students. We do every year. This year's theme is rights and responsibilities, and diving in and giving them leads to look a little bit further on specific topics and making their research efforts that much easier. And again, the online world is their world for sure. But even looking on the topic of just North Shore, what University of Illinois Chicago has, what the Newberry Library has, if it's a North Shore Mothers Club records or North Shore Festival collection. But really, it's, again, an endless stream of information available. One of the projects we worked on pre-pandemic was when I first started in 2017 with Chicago Collections. I thought, oh, that rich repository of our cultural members, what makes Chicago so vital and so alive is really our neighborhoods, our communities, our cultural entities. So reaching out to the Chicago Cultural Alliance to support their members. Many are volunteer-run organizations, but how can we help them not only preserve their member organization history, but also be able to share it on a larger platform. Many of these organizations, most organizations, don't have the financial means to create an Explore portal, share information that way. So just on the topic of stories of immigration and migration, we brought together this first listing of 6 organizations to share that information. And we hope to bring on even more. We've looked at these organizations as really the ones well positioned in terms of their own historical records, but really helping to further and continue this project. And then we've also created archives guides. So again, when I spoke of the students at Chicago Metro History Day, it can be intimidating if it's your first time researching. Where do I go? How do I ask? What are their hours? Do you have to make an appointment? So we try to make it that much easier for users of any generation to go and make a visit. And then additionally, we create subject guides on topics for students to dive in. If it's a specific topic, or Chicago crime and punishment, or Chicago arts, what's available there. But looking at what's next for Chicago Collections, we're quite excited because we've been working now with this idea of the next steps with the Explore portal. Like any online or tech model, it's the next day it's obsolete. It's similar to driving that car off the lot, the depreciation value, but new and efficient ways are constantly being created. And we and our organization are always looking for ways to not only continue to make our platform stable and secure, but making it that much easier for the user as well as our members to upload information. And again, when you saw earlier the kaleidoscope of our members, large institutions, small institutions, cultural institutions, and their staff on the archives side is small. So how can we just make it that much easier? So those, we've been partnering with American Eagle right now for the next steps, and it will be a multi-phase work. That's of course expensive, but we're working hard on funding efforts to further this along. So the best is yet to come, as I always say, for Chicago Collections. And then I'd like to open it up for any questions that any of you might have on what I shared. I know I shared a lot, but I really do invite you, and we're always open for any suggestions. If not only if you had difficulty on the site or I was looking for this, but please feel free to reach out, and we'd love to know more and to hear your successes with the site as well. So I'll close with that.
Questions? Comments?
And yes, the main site I see is chicagocollections.org.
Question on skyscrapers. Realizing Chicago is the home of the American or worldwide skyscraper, can I go to the collection and see information on the founding of various skyscrapers, as well as the history of them and the future history of Chicago skyscrapers?
Yes and no. Yes, in a sense, it will provide those leads to the organization that will have that information. But we're not an encyclopedia, so to speak. We provide those leads to the best end result of your research efforts. So we provide that roadmap and that guidance.
Can you take virtual tours of the skyscrapers or architecture of Chicago?
No, that's a really great question. We personally don't offer it because we're just represented, not just, but we're representative of all our member institutions. So it would be back on the member institution for that. But and I don't specifically know of any virtual tours offhand on that topic, but I'm sure they exist.
Can I get information about Argonne National Laboratory?
Absolutely.
So what do I input into the computer to get that?
Argonne National Laboratory in the search bar. The search bar will always be your friend in terms of getting that end result. And then that's where, if you feel you've come up empty-handed, the ask@chicagocollections.org will be able to provide you with, you know, I found this, but what I'm really looking for, where else should I look? And the reference librarians will, it's not as if we're siloed to just we're siloed in the sense of just sharing our member collections, but if the knowledge is an outside of a member organization or outside of Chicago, certainly leads you to that.
Maybe I missed it, but once I go into your collection index here, can I do everything on a subject, or is there anything that can I go back to the library for more? I mean, exactly, can I do everything online in my research?
Well, again, by everything, it will guide you to the holdings at Chicago History Museum on a specific topic and give you that metadata records. It will, instead of, it won't take you specifically, you know, we'll share information, but, you know, you might have to make a trip depending on what you're looking for in the subject matter too. So we're that best start to get you started.
Well, for example, the Royco collections at the Newberry, are you going to have everything online, or I would probably have to go to the Newberry Library, wouldn't I, or to see more on that's a lot of, he gave his whole collection to that library.
Yes, and case in point, in the end result, to actually see it, yes, you would have to go to the Newberry Library. And we're also, in complete transparency, we're continuously changing the Explore portals. That's the exciting part. We're continuously changing vehicle. So new collections, archival collections, are being added all the time. And with that being said, there's a backlog of material. It's an expensive process. It takes a team to get that done. So we're just beginning in many fronts of these large, vast collections. But, you know, at least we've started and we're working hard on continuing that.
Do you have a listing of private art collections of individual people in the Chicago area?
No. We have on our site listings of what is housed at the member institutions, but not outside of private individuals.
Probably just to ask, you don't have to bring it over. How are you funded? Did I miss that?
How are we funded? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Again, a lot of roll up my sleeves development work. We were originally funded by a grant from the Mellon Foundation that gave us that foundation to build the Explore portal. We are our member organization, and their membership fees support us in terms of our overhead costs, but we have a long-standing support from family foundations like the Gaylord and Dorothy Donnelly Foundation has been with Chicago Collections for some time. The Richard Driehaus Foundation has been a big supporter of Chicago Collections. So we have longstanding Illinois Arts Council. We have support from Department of Cultural Affairs. We've really worked hard in establishing ourselves and been very thankful for that type of support.
Oh, thank you.
And individual generous donations too are always welcome. So,
Arnie, are you ready for questions from Zoom?
Okay, take it over.
Thank you. Excuse me. Well, Howard Bartman wants to confirm the main website is chicagocollections.org, correct? One word, chicagocollections.org.
yes. And then in upper right-hand corner, it will say Explore Collections. And then under the listing of news and events, you'll find a listing of our programs that we're currently hosting as well as previous programs, and you can listen to programs there as well. So there's a vast assortment of different types of programs that I invite you all to take a peek at.
Thank you. And hey, let me use myself as an example of how we might use the portal. Those of us interested in genealogy, big topic. I know that live in Northbrook, I can get help directly through the library, also on the website. But I'm thinking that I probably will not find my grandfather's name, not being a famous person, if I went to the portal. I do know that Salvador Montaigne came to America and landed at 420 and a half South Clark Street in Chicago in 1903. So I think I have to be clever in how I ask for information. For example, if I looked up Salvador Montaigne, I don't think I'd find much, if anything. But if I said maps of Clark Street 1903, I might be able to drill down, or I'll find through the portal a reference, a levee district information that he lived. I knew that that was the situation. Chicago in 1903. So I do think I need to be clever in how I ask for help through the portal. Is that basically correct?
You're absolutely correct as a key researcher to go through those different layers to get to that end result that, as you said, if it's not a first and foremost, famous person, so to speak, to find those relatable topics that could dive in a little bit deeper. People do use the Explore portal for genealogy research, and it's been quite helpful. We partner with the Newberry Library as well as Chicago Public Library as well. One of our members, the Daughters of the American Revolution, has their archives posted as well. So really that topic of diving in and thinking of it, your research efforts as a multi-layer approach and coming at it from a different angle is really right on.
Jeannie, I'll turn it back to the auditorium.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions here from the audience or from Zoom? Okay, we'll say thank you very much, Jeanne. This has been very interesting.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll keep it in mind. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.